Here's a quick look through the viewfinder of a Nikon F2S. Just a kind of comparison to the Konica TCX video I posted recently. It's I would say similar in size. Some people claim it's bigger. Well, I guess really what I read was the TCX viewfinder was smaller and darker. I don't really agree. This one seems darker, and the TCX seems clearer, to be honest. The big difference is the light meter in this camera. It's kind of the more typical. It's kind of hard to see there at the bottom, but it's a needle. If it moves to the left, that's overexposed. Moves to the right, you see the plus and minus. To the right, it's underexposed, and then you have your aperture 1.2 and your shutter speed 1/250th off to the left and the right. And that was what I learned. This is the camera I learned photography on, and what you kind of expect, where you can change your aperture and shutter speed, and kind of just get that needle back to the middle to get proper exposure, versus as you recall if you've watched other video in the Konica TCX, it just tells you the aperture the camera knows is correct for a particular exposure or proper exposure based off your manually set shutter speed and ISO. So a little different train of thought. This is what I learned on. This camera is kind of a beast. Heavy, it's all metal. This viewfinder, which you can actually remove, is I'll go ahead and remove it so you guys can see this. And from what I understand, this is what makes this an F2S versus an F2. Is there's something special about this viewfinder and the light meter in it. You can actually see the ground glass here, so you can see my stove. It's a little out of focus, but basically that's the viewfinder. The prism is in here, and you look through the viewfinder here. There are other attachments. You can actually see. I'm trying to focus here. Sorry, this is my iPhone. So it says F2 in front of that serial number. That signifies as being a Nikon F2. There's nowhere on this body that it says S, but that top piece is apparently what makes it an S. I never really read too much into it. This lens over here, well, actually, this is a 55mm 1.2 Nikkor-S. You can see right there. And then, and I apologize for the shaky iPhone video. This is kind of a junk 35-105 f3.5 to 4.5 variable aperture zoom. Nobody really likes that lens. It isn't anything special. From what I've read, it's the first Nikon variable aperture zoom, which isn't a very exciting thing. It's kind of like the beginning of the end, sort of the beginning of terrible variable aperture zooms, but yeah, it is what it is. I tried it, actually adapted both of these lenses to digital cameras, and that zoom lens is just awful. But super low contrast, it just wasn't impressed at all. But this lens is pretty decent, the 55mm 1.2. I would say the Konica 57-1.2 is a superior lens, in my opinion. I don't know if the kind of old photography community back in the day would disagree, but in my opinion, from what I've seen, adapted digital, and the first few results, I just started getting back into film recently. It seems like it's definitely a superior lens. So yeah, I just kind of wanted to show you guys this. This was the camera that I learned film photography on, let's see, a little more than 15 years ago when I was in high school. So it got me into photography. I sort of lost track of it in my college years, and then when I had kids, I kind of got back into it, obviously with digital, but I've recently really gotten back into film. Picked up a medium format camera after picking up a cheap SLR. I've always had this one. I just don't really like shooting it anymore because it's so big and heavy. And I'm really digging film again. So hope you enjoyed this. Thanks.